You're good.
Okay. Good evening. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meeting Act, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and forwarded to the officially designated newspapers that the meeting would take place at Town Hall at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, February 18th. I invite you all to please stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Ms. Burstein?
Here.
Ms. Prupus?
Here.
Ms. Stahl-Egla?
Here.
Mr. Wasserman?
Here.
Mayor Weisberg?
Here.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Committeewoman Prupus is scheduled to give the proclamation, Brain Injury Awareness Month.
I am not Committeewoman Purpose.
I'm sorry, Committeewoman, I looked at you, terribly sorry. Committeewoman Burstein.
Okay.
Right, I was like, I know her.
Oh. I just don't want everyone else to be
Yeah, right.
confused.
Darkest children and adults ages 1 to 44 years old, devastating families emotionally and financially. And whereas the most common causes of brain injury are motor vehicle collisions, simple falls, and blunt force trauma, and whereas the only cure for brain injury is prevention through public awareness and education, and whereas Opportunity Project Pink is helping to educate the community through the dissemination and display of brain injury information and the hosting of local events. Now therefore be it resolved that the Township of Millburn Committee, on behalf of the residents and Millburn Township Committee, does hereby proclaim the month of March 2020 as Brain Injury Awareness Month in the Township of Millburn, and encourage all citizens to support and learn more about the effects of brain injury. Thank you. Of course, if you want to say a few words.
Yes, I would love to, very, very briefly. Thank you all. Again, I'm Julie London. I'm with Opportunity Project, and we're right in town, right down in East Willow by the ShopRite, and I know some of you will. Thank you for coming, and thank you for listening for a minute. We've been here for 26 years. We're a nonprofit that serves brain-injured individuals, people that have brain injury, any type of brain injury. And March is, as you all heard, Brain Injury Awareness Month. So across the United States, we honor that month to bring more awareness to the disability, destigmatize what it means to live with a brain injury, and we host a series of events in March. Go through April as well, but mostly in the month of March. And basically, I want to just let you guys know just a few of the events that we're hosting, and we'd love you all to join us if you could, just so you all know what we're doing. If you give me a moment, I'll just run through them real briefly. On March 4th, Mayor Weisberg is coming to our clubhouse once again, to present to our board, to members that come to our program that have brain injury. We're going to present the proclamation there again as our kickoff at the clubhouse on East Willow. On March 11th, we're doing a fundraiser with Chipotle right on Morris Turnpike. So if you dine there, please do so on March 11th. We get part of the proceeds for our programs. Then on March 25th, we have a wellness day at the clubhouse on East Willow Street once again. It's all day long, and we have great presentations. We have the folks from Soul Sprout joining us, the folks from So I Heard Music, doing some music groups there, and a lot going on that day. Then we have the week of March 22nd to 28th, King's Food Markets in New Jersey. Every King's is again hosting a shopping week for us. So if you shop there and you mention brain injury awareness, we get part of the proceeds for the Opportunity Project Clubhouse. So please shop at King's that week, March 22nd to 28th if you can. And then any day during March and April, if you'd like to host a Blue Jean Day and help us build awareness for the cause, we would really, really appreciate that. And also Investors Bank, once again, a wonderful sponsor. If you go to their ATMs or local ATMs, you will see the message about brain injury awareness on their ATMs. Thank you, Investors Bank. Thank you for all of you for listening, and thank you for Millburn Township for your wonderful support over the years. Really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
motion to approve the January 21st Township Committee minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to approve the January 21st Special Township Committee minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Reports. We'll start, how about we start on that side? Richard Wasserman, please.
Reports. As we mentioned last meeting, Deputy Mayor Prupus and I are working closely with the school board. We have a tentative meeting with the superintendent in early March to discuss some issues, and that's really it for now.
Great. Committee woman,
Okay, so we had the organizational meeting for the Board of Recreation Commissioners. 3 new commissioners, 1 regular and 2 alternates were sworn in, or 2 regulars and 2 alternates were sworn in. I have to say, it is an incredibly well-run board. It was very impressive. But for our purposes tonight, the important thing is the concerts in the park. Once again, this summer, you can mark your calendars already. June 21, it's a Sunday, Street Hassle. Thursday, July 9th, because of the way that the July 4th holiday falls, we're going to have a concert on Thursday night, that's Jersey Sound. On Sunday, July 19th, Tequila Rose, and on August 2nd, Enough Said, which is a township band. And they're still working on developing athletic fields with the town of East Orange, and that's pretty much it.
thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Deputy Mayor Prupus.
On February 10th, we had an Arboretum board meeting. Nature Discovery Camp for 2020 is starting enrollment, and that's looking really good. If you have children who want to enroll in camp at the Arboretum, reach out to them. And also, on May 16th of 2020, supporters of the Junior League of the Oranges and Short Hills and the Cora Hartshorn Arboretum and Bird Sanctuary will gather at the Turtleback Zoo for an evening of eating, drinking, dancing, and exclusive zoo access. 100% of all event proceeds will benefit the 2 nonprofit organizations to support their meaningful work in our local community, and more will be disclosed about that at a later time. But save your calendar the date for May 16th.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, the only meeting I went to was with you with the parking ad hoc, and we decided that you were gonna cover that, so no extra reports. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Okay, so I will report on a few things. First and foremost, March 15th, Founding Day. This event will take place at Taylor Park inside of Bauer. We have secured 4 local bands as entertainment. There'll be door prizes. There'll be numerous activities for children. We'll have word searches. We'll have Founding Day themed crafts. Our very own Alex McDonald is working on the trivia test contest for our young adults. There'll be pizza, lots of music. The event will be rain or shine, and that is Sunday, March 15th from 1 to 4. If you have any questions or you want to participate or get involved, ceta.info@millburntwp.org. The Chamber and I met on the I can't remember, it was the 5th or the 7th, to review Farmers Market, and the first market will be on Tuesday, June 2nd, Lot 1 across from Fiamma, 1 to 6. Same vendors for the most part will be back, and we look forward to another exciting season at the Farmers Market. The Parking Ad Hoc Committee met on February 13th. That was the first of the 2020 year. Myself, Committeewoman Eglo, Gil Tavares, Donna Ruggiero, and Alex McDonald. I'm happy to report that our 2019 parking revenue is up approximately 8% from 2018. MPay is gaining in popularity. And I just want to bring to everyone's attention that Millburn Township subsidizes the processing and credit card fees at the pay stations and does not pass on those additional costs to our residents and visitors. We are also continuing to look at new locations for the pay stations in our downtown. As was previously mentioned at the last TC meeting, a resident parking pass is being explored. This will be an annual fee and allow residents to park anywhere in town. Of course, parking rules would still apply, time limits and overnight limits as well. There are two communities in California, one in Mill Valley, outside of San Francisco, and the other is in Laguna Beach, and we're continuing our due diligence in exploring this option. On February 5th, I attended the Rawway River Coalition with Sarah Sherman from South Mountain Civic Association and Alex McDonald. This was my first Mayor's Rawway River Coalition meeting. It was quite informative. It consisted of important conversations about essential next steps. Here are some of the key points of that meeting. There was a setback. Initially, as many of you know, the Army Corps of Engineers decided to no longer actively support the group's effort until a decision and the project could be agreed upon with the bypass of the Orange Reservoir, a project that would hopefully receive the full support of the communities and counties as well as the state of New Jersey. Essex County, Union County, and the city of Orange met in early January to discuss the potential project and hear questions and concerns. It was decided that communication from the city of Orange Township as the owners of the reservoir and the downstream Campbell's Mill Pond should be achieved. Mayor McGee of Maplewood reached out. We actually have a meeting set up. I'll discuss that in a few minutes. Between Millburn, Maplewood, and Orange elected officials to help achieve this objective. That follow-up meeting will be held on March 21st at 12 noon. I will be attending with Alex. Maplewood, Millburn, and Orange will be at the meeting in the mayor's office to continue to discuss next steps and build consensus. It will also be attended by members of the Mayor's Rawway River Coalition. Mr. McDonald, reports, please.
Yes, I just have a few brief reports, and some of these are follow-ups to resident comments at the last township committee meeting. But the township has removed the pole on Millburn Avenue across from the movie theater. This pole used to hold a lane marker for Millburn Avenue to tell you it was a turn lane or a straight lane. It was not owned by the utility company. Further discussion is taking place with the phone, cable, and electric utility on the double pole that is across from Clemenza's, but we'll continue that conversation. The township also has a meeting set up with JCP&L to discuss Main Street and a path forward and potential costs associated with that, and I will certainly report back to the township committee on that. We are producing a plan to address concerns that have been brought up about the roadway between Mack Cali and the Poet section, which the township owns a 1,500 square foot section. This area is not a public roadway. It is not accepted by the township as such. However, we'll be looking at options that ensure that access is limited because there are public utilities there. You have electric lines that run down that, and you also have public sewer. So access needs to be maintained to those utilities and the township. But I'll be presenting an idea to the township committee and the public on that. As was asked by a resident at the last committee meeting regarding the ongoing work that the township is doing with Essex County to install a traffic signal at the intersection of Hobart Gap and Hobart Avenue. The township will ask that our on-call traffic engineer has the opportunity to review the timing and discuss it with Essex County prior to that being set. We are currently, just as a general update to that project, we're currently in the process of acquiring the necessary easements to place the traffic signal, which is required by an agreement between the township and Essex County, that is our responsibility, and that we are responsible for half of that construction cost for the traffic signal as a result of Hobart being our road and White Oak Ridge Road and Hobart Gap being their road. And that is, and just as a update on a few of our applications, a while back we had applied to a Safe Routes to Transit grant to address the Short Hills train station. We unfortunately were denied that, and it only goes to 4 communities a year. but we did not receive that grant, in which we did also seek the assistance of Millennium, who are grant consultants. Also, we applied to a technical assistance grant through Rutgers, again for that area, but on the other side of the train station to address pedestrian mobility. However, we also did not receive that grant. So that is my report.
May I ask a question, Mayor, of Alex's report?
Sure.
So we had two public meetings talking about some safety configurations at Chatham Road at the Short Hills train station. So since we're not eligible for grants, what do you think were going to happen with the plans that we had put forth? They were good plans. I know some residents weren't excited about, like, they were changed, but what are we doing? Is it going to sit still? Are we going to still talk about safety improvements at the train station?
Well, I think that would be sort of
Tara, can you sit back? I
up
can't
to the
hear.
township committee and their appetite to do so. Obviously, we have those plans. We have the configuration for lighting, some better control, some better flow over there, and certainly if the committee wants to pursue that, that would be a discussion that we could have here. But I'd leave that up to the township committee.
Right, and the PSAB is also looking at the train station as well, so.
Right, and so that may be able to assist them as well in their efforts. Just one other brief update. We've been, a while back, the township went out to bid on replacement of the eastbound Short Hills train station roof. We've been in some discussions with New Jersey Transit about the things that we need from them in order to make that project happen. We had a meeting at long last a week ago, and we've made some progress, so it looks like that project will be starting very soon. We will be doing a lot of communicating about that, and a lot of safety precautions will be put up in and around the train station. So we just ask that, the community be patient. We're gonna have a lot of things up there to sort of funnel people in the right direction away from the roof, so that as the gentlemen are working on the roof, we're making sure that everyone is safe during that process. So just keep an eye out for that. We'll be communicating that quite a bit. So, thank you.
Thank you. George Serio. Ah, there you are. County Representative.
Good evening, Mayor. Once again, I brought it up at the last meeting. 2020 is the census year. I brought a box of posters, which help educate the public about the importance of the census. It's important that everybody fill out the census information. It directly impacts the county and the township. Many grant programs utilize census information to provide funding, such as the Community Development Block Grant, which Millburn has applied for in the past and has received. So it's just educational information that these posters can be placed in town hall, in your public schools, in your library, and I also have little handouts too you can place throughout the town in various public facilities. So I have a box. I'll leave it with the clerk.
Great.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much. We now have a presentation from Mazer Consulting regarding pedestrian and circulation. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of Council. I'm very happy to be back here. Should I start or?
Please.
Okay, I apologize. Let me make sure you don't have my back totally, so I'll try to do it halfway. Actually,
Okay.
I'll face the screen. Again, good evening, everyone. This is an overview of where we are in terms of traffic and safety, and a discussion in terms of what we should be doing and where we should be going to address the issues we have in terms of parking, in terms of efficiency, safety, pedestrian mobility, and so on. So I'll try to be very brief. So this is an outline of my presentation. I should be done in less than 10 minutes, hopefully. In terms of a little bit of history, I've been serving this community for many, many years, starting in the mid-'80s, actually, when I was at NJDOT Essex County was one of my counties, and I used to come up here very often to do traffic studies and investigations. And then in 2006, I was retained by the township to do a traffic study for the downtown area to look at traffic efficiency, traffic safety, pedestrian mobility, and also how to improve aesthetics. I work with Major Consulting. My name is Maurice Rached. I have a team of about a dozen individuals that have expertise in traffic engineering that will be at the disposal of the township when needed. Before I start, just want to give you a little flavor of what it is to be a successful community. Millburn is a successful community, and when you're successful, you have issues with traffic. Success brings traffic, brings congestion. So if you look at any successful town in New Jersey, you find that there is traffic, there is issue with parking, with efficiency, with pedestrian mobility. So we're not first here. These are issues we have to deal with, but that's how it is. But the good news is that we like our town, and I love Millburn, and I think it's a very successful town. So we need to work on the issues to make them better. So what we have done so far, I've been active in Millburn for many years. Your representatives have been very active in always doing something, always improving the aesthetics, the streetscape, the parking situation. We've done some parking innovations, whether they're good or bad, that's another story, but someone is always trying to improve the situation here. And I've always stood here many, many times before you, before your neighbors, and talked about traffic over the years and about safety. And here I am back again talking to you or speaking with you. So let me give you a very quick evaluation of what we've done so far. The streetscape has changed quite a bit in the downtown area, and there has been some improvements. It's not perfect. We want to make it perfect, but I'm going to explain to you some of the improvements that we have seen. In terms of safety, there has been a definite improvement, and that's based on the facts. If we look at the 2 years before the improvements and compare that to the 2 years after the improvements, we see a very significant improvement in safety based on the police reports, the accident records or the vehicular crashes went down from 42 to 27. That's 2 years before compared to 2 years after. The efficiency has improved, but we still need to do a lot of work in terms of the efficiency to make sure people, pedestrians, and cars are moving efficiently throughout the network. Parking, there is always an issue with parking. We have mixed results, and we're here to make it better. So let's get into some specific recommendations that are on the table today. This is the intersection of Main and Millburn. And what prompted this study is safety and efficiency. Safety is that there has been a couple of knockdowns. That is trucks making a right from Millburn onto Main and hitting the pole at the corner, the traffic signal pole. And so a firm was hired to look at safety and efficiency at this intersection, and as you see, they came up with some improvements, some recommendations. So let me go from the right to the left in terms of the improvements. So if you look at the extreme right, it says start angle parking here. And that recommendation means that there'll be a striped area. This may result in the loss of one parking space. If you move toward the left, it says, in conjunction with that, provide hatched area. Moving on to the curb itself, the radius of the curb at the corner is being widened from what it is today, probably 20 or 25 feet to 35 feet. Moving on to the left, we do the same treatment to the corner across the street, again widening it from about 20 to 35 feet. And then the last recommendation all the way to the left is to add a right turn bay, in other words, to increase that approach from 2 lanes to 3 lanes so that cars can go into the right turn lane and make a right turn. So let's go over what do they mean and some of the advantages and the disadvantages of these recommendations. So in terms of advantages, we're adding a lane so that improves traffic flow that's mostly in the direction that is going eastbound. We're improving vehicular safety by cutting the corners back and allowing trucks to negotiate the turn without hitting any of the equipment. And that also eliminates the knockdowns. But everything has a cost. So what are the disadvantages or the cost that we have to pay for? There is obviously a money cost. And it's been estimated that these improvements would cost somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 in general. This is a very high-level estimate. Then the other disadvantage is the crossing distance. Now, when this was conceived years ago, one of the major ideas that we were trying to achieve in the downtown area is to shorten the crossings. And we shorten the crossings by actually making the corners narrower or tighter by putting the bulb outs. That means you park a car, but then at the intersection, the area of the sidewalk moves into the roadway so that the actual crossing distance is made as short as possible. So when we make this widening, that crosswalk now becomes longer, somewhere maybe in the area of maybe 10 feet longer. And then we have, of course, the construction disturbance. These construction activities will take maybe 2 months to be done. So there'll be some construction activity, some closures of lanes, construction equipment out there to complete the work. And also in the end, this will result in a smaller area for pedestrians. Again, one of the things that we're trying to do downtown and in most downtowns is to have more space for pedestrians to walk, to congregate, to have space in front of the stores, to also install some greens, some planters, other street furniture, which was done at this intersection, as a matter of fact. So by widening this, these 2 corners, we'll be eliminating some of these installations. So there are advantages and disadvantages to these improvements, and I wanted to tell you about both. Again, I'm not recommending to go with one method or the other, or one improvement or the other. I just wanted to share with you where we are and give you some high-level analysis so that we together figure out what to do moving forward. This is, again, I apologize for the numbers. I don't mean to get too scientific, but this is the result of the capacity analysis. That is the before and the after compared. The top of the chart is the before, and the bottom of the chart is the after. For example, if you look at the top of the chart and you look at the first row that has numbers, all the way to the left you have 48 seconds, then 314, and if you move to the right you have 106 and 1156. The small number is the number of seconds of delay. So what this chart is telling us that if you're going eastbound, on average, there is a delay of 48 seconds. In the PM peak, there is a delay of 106 seconds. Now, if you go to the bottom portion, these numbers become 43 and 56, approximately. So this tells us that these improvements, for example, in the PM peak, will reduce delay for the eastbound approach from 106 seconds to 56 seconds. For the remainder of the approaches, the delay is reduced a little bit, but it's not as significant as the reduction for that particular approach, which makes sense because that is the approach where we added the lane. So it makes sense that that approach will gain the most reduction in delay. Mr. McDonald shared with me some of the notes of some of the meetings that happened recently, and I'm summarizing that for everyone in this room. There was a concern with speeding. There was recommendations in terms of enforcement, in terms of feedback devices. These are the devices that tells the driver how fast he or she are going on the street. There is always a concern about cost. Is it justified? There are different priorities. Some people find parking is a high priority. Other people do not. Parking also does not seem to be people don't seem to have a consensus in terms of parking. Some people feel it's a big problem, but others feel it is not such a big problem. There is a consensus, it seems, that the downtown area could use more or better signage. And I believe there is a consensus that the traffic signals need to be synchronized better so that the whole downtown area is more efficient in terms of vehicular movement. So where do we go from here, and what do we do right now with all this information and all these competing recommendations? Well, cost is a factor, and this slide pertains mostly to the intersection of Main and Millburn. So we need to, that would be my recommendation, we need to get a better estimate on the cost. We need to look at alternative solutions. For example, if widening the corners is not desirable, can we do something different to achieve the same purpose? For example, can we relocate that signal equipment that is being hit a couple of times? Would that be a solution? Could it be that if we provide some striping improvements and try to guide these trucks better throughout the intersection, would achieve the same purpose? And also, we always need the community to be involved to get feedback from the people that use the intersection and that work or live in town. And then we look at implementation. In the end, what do we do? On a long-term basis, what are the options ahead of us from a long-term basis? And when I say long-term, I mean for the whole downtown area, not just for the intersection of Main and Millburn. These are some ideas that I would present to you for consideration. One of them is to do a downtown traffic model to assess the efficiency of the traffic signals, revise the timing, revise the progression to achieve the most out of what we have. Then maybe look at a general parking plan. The township did this some 10 years ago, or even more, maybe 13, 14 years ago. Maybe it's time to reconsider the whole parking situation and come up with a plan for parking. And other long-term initiatives would be that maybe we need to think about a strategic plan. You know, some companies have a strategic plan in terms of where they're headed in the future. And maybe Millburn needs a strategic plan or a transportation master plan to address all these issues on a long-term basis, which would include technology. A lot has happened in the last 3-4 years in terms of technology. A lot of intelligence can be infused in traffic signals today. There is something called, for example, the adaptive technology, which is a computer system that learns from the daily operation of cars and pedestrians and reacts accordingly in a real-time basis. Better communication, maybe different apps. There is a variety of things that we could do to keep our downtown moving in the right direction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Committee, does anybody have any questions from Mr. Rashid?
Well, I think number one, what you said is really important, getting true cost estimates, because we have like kind of all over the ballpark, we have by different projects, there was like 5 different projects, and we don't really know what any of them are going to cost. And I think it's really important to not only hear from the merchants, which we were a little slipped up on that, but also the community at large. And I think we're kind of back at start square zero, and at the next PACTS meeting, have your firm come in and really drill down on some serious alternatives and what we should be looking for.
Agreed.
I want to thank you for coming. It looks like you took a very good look at our town, and I appreciate your service to us. So a couple of my questions are, question number one is, you know, I was in a meeting where somebody was telling us about the adaptive lights, you know, about the signaling and how you know, and how those could be installed. Is it possible to do that sooner than later? I mean, is there a downside to if we decided to upgrade our signaling? You know, would that help us no matter what? As I know we want to do it as a plan. You know, we always want to move forward comprehensively. But is there any reason that we wouldn't want like these high-tech lights that would move traffic, that would be more thoughtful?
The answer is possibly yes. And it depends on what kind of equipment we have in the cabinets. So if the equipment we have, and what I mean by equipment, the controllers, for example, and the communication. If the controller and the communication is recent enough, it's not very old equipment, then implementing the adaptive technology would be easy. If the equipment we have is an old equipment, then we have to replace it and then put the adaptive. So until we find out exactly what kind of equipment we have inside the cabinets, we don't have an exact answer to your question. But to pursue that question and find answers, all it would take is a call to the county or a visit to the county and a request for an inventory of equipment. We do an evaluation of what equipment they have, and then we can give you a better answer.
Terrific. And I have one follow-up question. The other follow-up question, when you did your study, you know, a lot of my concern has to do with police presence in the downtown and, you know, making sure our police are, you know, monitoring aggressive driving and so on. Did you take into account any of our, you know, police presence in the downtown, you know, ticket writing or summonses? I mean, does that come into play in your study? You know, as some background, the township right now is looking at our police presence, our levels right now. We have an outside firm looking at that. And would that have any bearing on your study?
Well, we did coordinate with the police department, and we historically do. In terms of what we're doing, we get feedback from them. We address their concerns in our recommendations. But to answer your question directly, did we do a study for their presence and enforcement? I would say we did not. What we normally do is we communicate with the police department. We get data that they may have. We communicate with them what are the recommendations that we would like to make. They give us feedback. We get to a consensus. In terms of enforcement, we can. And we identify specific issues and problems, and then we make recommendations. For example, if there is speeding, we can determine where the speeding is happening. We may be able to determine as why is it happening. Is it a feature in the roadway that is encouraging speeding?
Right.
Is it lack of enforcement, lack of signage? And then we can communicate some of that information to the police department and make a recommendation in terms of when, how, and where to implement enforcement. But I would tell you that they do the same thing. And they usually do everything I'm telling you we would do, and they have their own enforcement program as well.
Thank you.
Any other?
I do.
Yes. So can we move Maurice to look at the adaptive lighting as a next step?
You mean the equipment?
Exactly. Can we kind of, as a committee, task him with that now? Are there any objections to that?
Well, would it be Alex to say to Maurice, please go to the county and get this information if it's as easy to get as that? Do you need our permission as our on-call traffic engineer to go to the county?
You just need to ask me,
Just
and I'll
needs
go to the
direction.
county.
So I
and-
would like
yeah, I need
to, I would
direction.
like to
Yeah.
see if everyone is in favor of giving that direction, so the next time we have this conversation, we can talk about the adaptive lighting and if that's a real possibility.
And as long as you said that that could be something that we could move on relatively quickly, I mean, I think.
Yes.
I think that that would be an excellent idea.
But I think we have to remember, there's always a cost involved in everything.
Great. Yeah.
Right, so,
Right.
Well,
All
this
we
step
are is asking
is
right now.
insignificant.
right, but just saying, Richard,
right.
we could move on it. We have to find out what the cost is
Oh,
and all the, there's always a consequence and a ramification to every decision.
Absolutely.
This step will have no cost.
Okay, well, then there you go. That's
Except
what
your
we're-
sounds
cost.
even better.
Your cost.
I don't mind investing a little bit of time, going to the county, asking for the information, and then we'll discuss the information once we have it.
Terrific.
Great.
Great. And how long do you think that will take you to get some answers?
It's not easy to guess how much government agencies will take to respond. But no, the county is very good, by the way. We have a great relationship with them. I would say give me a week and I should be able to have that information.
Lovely, great.
Yeah,
Perfect.
approximately.
Does any other committee members have any questions for Mark?
Last question for you, Mayor, would be, when our next PACTS committee is convened, will Maurice be invited?
Certainly.
Okay, so let's set a date for that and put an
I believe
invitation out to
Don't
you.
we have a date? We do not? Okay.
No.
Would anybody in the public have any questions as it relates to Maurice and this presentation? Yes, please come forward. Oh, you can say it right from there, yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned that you were recommending a transportation master plan for the future, and
I wouldn't say, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I wouldn't say I am recommending. These are some of the ideas that we need to discuss. But go ahead.
I'm wondering if you were told about the new developments that are being proposed in the downtown, two which would sit right on Millburn Avenue. So in terms of looking at a master plan, I think what we know is coming down for the future has to be incorporated.
Yes.
Okay, the other question that I had for you is, did you study the safety concerns that were the catalyst to that initial improvement? You might have heard there were 143 vehicle pedestrian hits, and I'm wondering if you actually went and researched and investigated where those hits fell on the Millburn landscape.
We did this type of analysis years ago. But last year, there was a different company that was servicing the township. So I did not do anything recent.
Previously, before the improvements, the steps across Millburn Avenue was 55, I believe, and you're recommending cutting that down. So I'm wondering what the the footage would be to cross Millburn Avenue if your, I don't know if I should call it recommendation, or your explanation were to be adopted. What would the footage be across Millburn Avenue?
So the crossing distance, if it was 55, I would say it would increase to 65 to 75. But I'm not sure it's 55 today. I think it's shorter.
No, not today. I thought
Ah.
originally, if I'm
Oh,
remembering
originally,
correctly,
okay,
it was
okay.
55.
Yes, actually, it will be still shorter than it was originally. It will increase, but not to the extent that it was before the
Do you have
improvements.
the footage?
Offhand, I remember a lot of things, but that I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Yep.
And one last question,
Okay,
if I
but
may.
please be
Last
mindful
question.
of, yeah.
What do you believe is the most compelling argument to adopt this plan and minimize the bump outs? What do you feel is most compelling? Because you did an excellent job of presenting the pros and the cons and the advantages and the disadvantages. But for the work that you did and for whatever it is you were charged with by the PAC committee, what do you feel is the most compelling argument?
Very good question, by the way. I don't think we know enough to make a decision tonight, or to answer your question tonight. I think, like the questions I've been asked, we need to dig a little bit more into the cost, into the other alternatives, and then I can give you an answer. But it would be premature of me to give you an answer tonight. Thank you.
This is just an overview at this juncture. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, you, okay, we'll take two more questions
Let's put
and
the
then,
timer on too.
yeah,
Yes.
go ahead. Oh, yeah, yes, please. We'll take this question and your question.
It's not a question, just comment on the presentation. Thanks, Mayor and committee members, for your service. Very quickly, on the question of the lights, or timers and sensors on the lights, I would hope that this town implements it. Lived in other parts of the country over 30 years or more, and find that most of the places have them. This is the first place I see that do not have them. That wastes a lot of time, and it actually can help traffic move faster. So I'm surprised that it's coming now, but hopefully it'll come up soon. Also, I would hope that the police department is involved more as opposed to an aside. I'm surprised that they're not integrally involved in these studies, and to assume that they would say the same thing, I find that a little bit lacking. Thank you.
Can you please state your name and address just for our
Absolutely. My name is Shashank Mishra. I'm a resident of Short Hills.
Thank you.
My name is Joy Menon. I'm a resident of Short Hills. Thank you, committee members, for your service. That was an excellent presentation. I just have one comment. You mentioned the eastbound traffic. In my experience, the north and southbound traffics are of much more consequence, and it takes a long time for me. So I take Parsonage and get onto Old Short Hills, and from there onto downtown, around 5 o'clock in the evening, can take anywhere between 10 minutes to half an hour. So yes, I appreciate the fact that you have proposed or recommended certain changes. I'd also like to see if the committee members think it's appropriate to take a look at the north and southbounds, because that's the traffic that's coming from, South Orange Avenue, coming from the Short Hills Mall area into downtown, and maybe sort of some of the transit traffic takes place there. So that's an area that's of particular concern, I think, for the town. That's where you see the aggressive driving, and there's only one reason of aggressive driving. It's just stupid drivers. That's all. I mean,
Actually, thank you. I have a short answer for you. So with traffic signals, when you improve one approach, you improve the other. So when we improve the east-west approach, then we give it less green time because it has more capacity, and we revert the green time to the north-south. So you're going to see improvements all around. Again, I'm not saying that this is what we should do. I'm just answering your question. Thank you very much.
So
Thank you.
I have one more thing for Maurice. When you're looking at just to be really clear, when you're looking at the traffic signalizations, we're not just talking about that one intersection, but for the
You're
entire.
correct. The entire downtown,
Yeah.
yes.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Public comment. When invited to speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and address, and speak into the podium microphone so that your comments can be understood by all and properly recorded. Whenever an audience or committee member reads from a prepared statement, please give or email a copy to our township clerk, cgaddy@millburntwp.org. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and for all to be heard, we ask that speakers limit their comments to 3 minutes. We know that a lot of people would like to speak this evening, and we're going to really adhere to that time slot. This is a business meeting, and please address professionals or staff directly. Please direct all your comments to me. Thank you. Does any member from the public, if you'd like to line up, that would be fine.
Mayor, could we invite people to sit? I mean, there are people
Yes,
standing.
please,
There's a
come
whole
to-
empty pew here if anybody wants to sit.
Hi.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ed Mazer, Greenwood Drive. I'll be quick. My concerns relate to vehicular traffic that I would like to be addressed by the traffic consultant. The first one is we happen to have a very good database as far as accidents happening throughout the town. And I would like the town to have the traffic consultant analyze the areas where we have significant vehicular accidents and determine what, if anything, should be done at those intersections. We have a town that has an irregular street pattern, and this is one of the charms of the community. It also leads to some problems. One of them is the White Oak Ridge Hobart Gap, where you're coming around a blind curve. In that case, my wife was involved in an accident there. We just said, well, it's a bad intersection, and let it go at that. I subsequently heard in the next week or two about 3 other accidents. I then did an OPA request and found 3 or 4 more. The Millburn Police, when I brought it to their attention, they kicked it to Essex County. Essex County didn't see a problem with the intersection. I worked with Alex, and we had a traffic study done there, and the intersection qualified for a traffic signal, both under safety and also under traffic flow. So there's something there. We've got the data. It would not be that expensive to have the staff within the police department prepare, under the direction of the traffic consultant, a summary of where the accidents are happening, and have the traffic consultant review those and just see what improvements should be done, either signalization, signage, or what should be done enforcement on those, or whether some of it may be impaired sight lines that could be corrected by reducing some of the height of the shrubbery that we may have there. Also, as far as the downtown area, the signal at Charlie Brown's is still timed for when we had a left turn from coming up Main Street up the hill to Old Short Hills Road. It's 13 seconds that the traffic is stopped coming down the hill, where the traffic can only go straight up the hill. So it's a very easy fix there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and committee members. My name is Paul Kahn, 7 Woodstone Circle. I'm a board member at the Enclave at Short Hills. I have 2 of my other board members that are here in the audience. The reason we're in front of you is that we've submitted a request for municipal reimbursement for our the essential services that the township does not provide us. And that is garbage collection, street lighting, tree leaf removal, and also the snow removal. I believe you have an attorney, our attorney, Tana Buka, was speaking with, I think, the township's attorney, Andrew Brewer, and he just got back to her recently and told her that you guys would not be doing any reimbursement for 4 of the years, and for 1 of the years, 2019, he didn't give us a number of the dollar reimbursement. We've already submitted all of the documentation for the past several years. And the other comment that he made was that he would not draft the actual agreement for the reimbursement agreement, that our attorney would be responsible for doing that. We would just like the township to note that since we've been in residence there, we pay about $750,000 a year in taxes, which is in the aggregate of the years that we've been there, over $4 million in taxes, and we have not gotten any reimbursements yet. The amount of reimbursements that we're requesting, obviously, is a nominal amount that the township is required to do by New Jersey state statute, and it's we don't have any time period in which we want the money back, but we want some sort of commitment from the committee to deal with to get us the monies back at some point in time. The lawyer did also note something that was interesting to us, was that he said that the township didn't budget for it. We found that interesting because we would think that if you're collecting taxes from 30 residents in town, that you must budget for the income that you're getting, but you don't budget for the reimbursements that by law you're required to provide. So we hope that the township takes a look at the matter, and it's a very easy thing to resolve, and we hope that you guys come to some sort of, let the lawyer know and comes to some sort of agreement.
Do you have a written statement prepared with all this documentation and the paper trail regarding your conversation?
Your lawyer has all the documentation. Okay. All the paperwork has been sitting with him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jean Gerardo. I live on Canterbury Lane in Short Hills. I have some other things I'll bring up later, but right now I want to talk about the traffic. I did go to the safety committee meeting that you had recently, and we do need a police presence in town. We used to have police in town all the time. From the time I moved in here, there was even a police officer, Fred Piper, who used to direct the traffic. This is no longer being done. The police leave town by 3:15 in the afternoon. The middle school gets out at 2:45, and they go into town, especially on Fridays, and there is no police presence. There are crossing guards to deal with these children. The same with the Washington School. The Washington School gets out at 5 minutes after 3. And by the time they go into town and everything, there is no one to cross these kids across the street. And as far as the less accidents we've had recently, if you go back to before they turned, you were allowed to make that left-hand turn. Before that the accidents were minimal on that street. Then you started letting people turn left from Millburn Avenue onto Main or going up to Old Short Hills Road, and that's when we started having more accidents in town. Now that it's back to not making that left-hand turn, that may be the reason why there's less accidents in town. The parking is atrocious on the street. Half the cars are off into the street. They're not on those platforms. You have to try and get rid of those platforms or do something and go back to the regular parking. Because everyone I talk to from other towns or even in this town, they're avoiding Millburn Center. And that is not good for the shops. Also, the people who are renting, I called them possibly renting one of the stores in town, they never call you back. So that's not helping real estate. Yes?
You mean one of the realtors?
Right, he's like the one who's handling footers. They never call you back. I've called 5 times.
Richard Footer is right there. You can talk to him directly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Public comment? Please step up to the microphone.
Janet Pizar, Main Street in Millburn. I think it's clear that the PACT committee was empaneled around a predetermined outcome. And we pretty much heard it tonight. And I'm happy to say it was a much softer presentation than I anticipated. But I think this committee has an enormous decision in front of them, because I think we know how it's going to unfold. And because we don't know the monetary expense, we can't address that as an obstacle or something that certainly would have to be considered, because it already was, I believe, an $8 million investment. But anyway, we could talk about speeding through town, we could talk about enforcement, we could talk about distracted drivers. But the new wave of safety measures is the physical. And that's exactly why the bump outs were made, because most of the pedestrian vehicle hits became the political